Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Aeon Trespass Odyssey, designed by Marcin Welnicki and published by Into the Unknown Studios. This is a fully sleeved copy of Aeon Trespass Odyssey that's organized to get gameplay started as soon as possible, as well as facilitate the game while it's being played. If you have any questions about what you see here, please let me know down in the comments below, and for links to everything that I talk about in this video, please take a look in the description. Let's get started organizing Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Before we begin, I want to quickly talk about two things. First off, the playmat for the game. We store our playmats in these architect tubes. I like that you can affix the artwork to the top of them. They're nice and extendable, so you can make sure that they fit whatever playmat you're storing inside. They've got these great twist caps like so, and then you're able to pull out that mat from inside. They work well, and it's easy to distinguish from all your large playmats here. That's my recommendation here. These are the architect tubes for your different playmats for the game. The next item I want to quickly talk about is the BCW Monster Storage Box. We use these to store several of our large card games, particularly the sleeved ones, using an index card organizing system, and we've decided to employ that for this copy of Aeon Trespass Odyssey as well. It fits all of our sleeved cards, several of our tiles, and makes a great accompanying box to your standard box here for Aeon Trespass Odyssey. So we're going to be going through not only the Monster Storage Box here, but also this core Aeon Trespass Odyssey box to see how we organize everything between the two. With all that being said, let's get started organizing Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Let's get started by lifting off this gigantic box lid, and inside you'll see that we have our game board on top. On the right side of our game board here, we use a Chip Theory dice container. This is going to store all of your different combat dice, organized by their different strengths. We got our red, our black, and our white, and it's got a nice display to where everybody can grab the specific color that they need. Now, if you don't have these Chip Theory games, once again, link to everything that I talk about in the description below. You can definitely just store these in a plastic bag, and that's going to apply for most of the things that you see here, but I do love these storage containers here. We'll move the main game board to the side. And underneath the game board, you'll have a large binder as well as a large storage container. Starting off with our large storage container, this is a hardware storage case. We get these from the Dollar Tree for $1.25 each. I love these. I order them in bulk usually. And once again, I'll leave a link in the description below. One simple lid that you got to pull off, and then you have access to everything inside like so. And they also fit inside of this core game box nicely. Let's get into that large hardware storage case here, lift off the lid, and you'll see I have a variety of tokens sorted by type. And then you also have these character portrait tokens. They'll all be in this same small area here. And then these small terrain tokens will also be in here, these 1x1 squares. Lots of your columns, but then all of your other small terrains will also fit in here. These do fit nicely in these wells, and when you do take these terrain, usually you're getting a lot of them. So that's in that bottom left. You've got all of your dice on the bottom here, including your white criticals. Based on the player count, you're going to pass those out to different players, or if you're playing solo, you just need the one white die and then the rest of the black die based on how many you're actually rolling at a time. And then of course some modifier tokens down here. We'll see more areas for tokens as we continue, but this is where you're going to put your large bulks that have those large groups with the biggest token amounts in the large storage case here. Speaking of seeing those small storage cases, we have some stored under this miniature set here. And let's go ahead and pull out that miniature set. Now, this is part of your original insert that comes with the game, and it's going to store lots of your small components nicely. So we've gone ahead and left that in the packaging, as we have not, in our point in the campaign, needed any of these miniatures currently, except for this one Titan right here. So keeping all of this intact and making sure that it's not damaged, still protected in that original organizer. Underneath that included organizer, you'll have one of your small storage cases here. I love the way that these function, similar to the large ones. You'll pop that lid off, and you've got that array of tokens that you can pick from, but they also have this unique feature where if you have multiple of them, you can stack them on top of each other like that to conserve some table space and still have that array of tokens to choose from. As mentioned before, there are multiple of these, and you'll see one in the BCW box, but you can find these in the description of the video. These are also at the Dollar Tree for $1.25 a piece. Getting into that small hardware storage organizer, you'll see we have more of these modifier tokens all separated by their different symbol types. And you'll have this single red token that we have not actually used yet, and then some smaller tokens on the bottom there because it is that unique symbol. You also have some of these square tokens. You have several of these brown tokens with this specific symbol that are in here. As mentioned before, we are not super far in the campaign, so we have not used all of these tokens yet. And then some unique square tokens that will also be in a pool next to those brown tokens here. So these are all in this one small storage box. Underneath that small storage box, you're going to have one of two envelope plastic baggies. These are going to have some lettered envelopes. You're not going to open them until told to. Let's move on to the left side of the box here, and you'll see we have a large 3-ring binder. It's 1.5 inches, white, and we've printed off a copy of the artwork from Aeon Trespass Odyssey on the front here, but inside you'll see we have a variety of different gameplay components inside. Starting on this left side, you have your Argonaut sheets for the current cycle. So this is our Cycle 1 Argonaut sheet, has all of our information, including our resources, and of course where we are on our voyage timeline. You can get an idea of where we are in this current campaign with this organization setup, and then underneath those Argo sheets, you're going to have all of your Argonauts sheets. These are going to have all of the information for your different skills, where you are in your Mnemos cards, the name, player, etc. So you'll need these when your Argonauts do eventually die, and you'll need to replace them eventually. We'll go ahead and return all of the Argonaut sheets as well as the Argo sheet to the left side of the binder here. And we'll move on to the right side of the binder where we'll have a variety of different pages to store your small cards. Now the first cards that we have stored are all of your conditions. These are different attributes that you can gain during battles. Generally they're going to be hindrances, so they're nice and organized alphabetically here so you can pull them out when the time calls for them. We'll turn the page and you'll see that we have more of the conditions here, and one more page leads us to our current unlocked technologies. If you don't want any spoilers, you can skip this section of the video, but I think they're very light as you can see the tech trees and what the different technologies lead to. So these are your current unlocked technologies, so you can see which ones you have access to. Now following that technology, we have some blank pages for, of course, you're going to be unlocking more tech as you play, so just preparing for that. And then lastly, you have all of your different gear cards for your Cycle 1. And as you can see, most of this game is separated into Cycle 1, Cycle 2, Cycle 3, so all of your Cycle 1 cards are first, and if we go further down, you'll have your Cycle 2, and then of course finishing off with that Cycle 3. So all of these are organized alphabetically, so that way you can easily find the different things you need based on whatever production technologies that you're using. And if you turn to the very back, you'll have some additional sheets here for future cycles. These are for like if you're playing the Mentis Theater, or if you're doing your Cycle 2, Cycle 3, you can have all those prepared for when you're ready to move on to the next cycle. So that's everything that's inside of our large white binder here. Underneath our large white binder, you're going to have your current cycle story card, your current omen card, as well as your current inward Odyssey card. Now's a good time to talk about the different sleeves that we use for some of the cards that you've seen. Now, starting off with those large story cards, we actually use some of these matte finished binder pages. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can definitely go out and find specific sleeves for these, but I do find that these work nicely, and you can also affix them into a binder if you'd like to store them that way. It gives you some flexible options, but I'll leave a link in the description below, as I mentioned before. The next card size we have are our mini American board game sleeves. We use the Gamegenic brand with this matte finish. I love the way that they handle, shuffle. They've got that great matte finish. My favorite brand for these mini American size sleeves. And our last size of card in the binder are the standard size cards, and we use the Ultra Pro Pro Matte deck protector sleeves for it. I like the way that they shuffle. They've got that non-glare matte finish. This is my go-to brand for standard size cards. And not only are they for the technology cards, but also for several other different card types that you'll see in the BCW box, including the Primordials. And I'll leave a link in the description below for all these sleeves, but also for all of the specific card counts for each of the different sizes of sleeves that you'll need. So take a look in the description below. Underneath our Story, Inward Odyssey, and Doom cards, I've got this excellent round summary sheet that I use every single game that I play of Aeon Trespass Odyssey. It gives you an excellent round summary, small, minute details and rules. That's a great tool for following to keep you on track during the different phases of the game. Highly recommend this. I'll give a link in the description of the video so that you can get a copy of this for yourself. Underneath the round summary, you'll have all of your different cycle books. We have our Cycle 1 Truth of the Labyrinth book that we're currently on, as well as our rulebook for the game, and then lastly, the Learn to Play guide, so you can get some rules references in. And then, of course, you have your other two cycles, Cycle 2, Abyss Watchers, followed by Cycle 3, Pitiless of the Sun. So that's everything in this middle section. Let's move on to the left side here, starting off with another plastic bag with more of the secret decks. I won't get in this, but these are in these large tarot-sized cards. And when sleeving your large tarot-sized cards, I recommend the Arcane Tinman tarot-sized sleeves. Once again, a great matte finish on these. Love the way that they handle and shuffle. My go-to sleeves for tarot-sized cards. And our last set of components is in this bottom left section of the box here. These are going to be all of your current Argonaut sheets, and then whatever Titan that you have specifically tied to them. Now, as you play, you're going to be unlocking more Titans, so these aren't necessarily stuck to these characters. You can mix and match them, but in my current setup, this is the Argonaut that I have playing that specific Titan. We'll get into it later where the cards are for these specific Argonauts, but I do have them sorted by there's my Argonaut, there's my Titan, there's my Argonaut, there's my Titan, and then if we keep on going point, you'll get to the different characters that are available for your current cycle. So we've got our Labyrinth Tauros, the Hecaton, as well as the Hermesian Pursuer, and then you have the Alpha Temenos, and then some of the Titans that can potentially be unlocked. But all of these different creatures are potential fights and primordials that you'll be fighting during your cycle 1. Underneath the rest of the Titans here, you're going to have your Story and Doom cards for the different cycles, as well as your different Primordials that you'll be fighting in the cycles. And these are also going to be separated by cycle specifically. So you'll need Cyclonus, then Chimera Mesticiosis, the Burden, the Nishan, Hypertime Oracle, then Icarian Harpy, the Sun Descendant, and lastly, Rapid Adaptation. So that's all of the different Primordials that you'll be fighting in future cycles. And the last piece of our puzzle here is the included insert and storage for the included miniatures. I have not done any adaptation or changes to these as of yet. As mentioned before, we are earlier in our campaign, so I have not had to assemble any of the large miniatures, and I do think even if we do assemble them, I will return them to their states here because they are protected inside. So I want to keep them nice and shiny because I do think that the miniatures are amazing in this game, so they are in their pre-packaged organizer here. And that's everything inside of our core box for Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Let's go ahead and pack it up. Let's start on this left side here with all of our secret tarot-sized cards, as well as our large oversized cards here, as well as our current Argonauts and Titans. In this middle section, we'll place all of our rulebooks and cycle books, followed by our campaign round summary sheet and our Doom, Inward Odyssey, and story card in the center here. We'll place that large white binder on the left side like so, and then take our small envelopes of these hidden cards, as well as the small organizer on top. We'll place the smaller included organizer for all of our miniatures on that right side here. Next up is our large hardware organizer in the middle like so, and then our Chip Theory Games dice container on the right side. We'll finish it up by placing the game board on top, and that is everything inside of our core box for Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Next up, we'll move to that BCW box and see where we're going to be organizing the rest of the cards and components. Moving on to the BCW Monster Storage Box here, we have two distinct sides. On the right side here, we'll have several of your tiles and some more tokens, and on the left side here, we'll have the majority of your cards. Starting on this right side here, we'll have another one of those token organizers. We'll pop off the lid, and you'll have a variety of tokens that you'll be placing into the Kratos pool. So all of those will be separated by their types. You'll also have some unique tokens here, like the last visited city, as well as the target priority, but there's a miniature for this, so I actually use this on the round tracker to track where I am. That's all going to store in this one here. You've got your current Doom as well as your current progress towards your different Odyssey and story cards. You got these specific colored square tiles, and then some more tokens for the progress as well as the Doom. So that's everything in this second small organizer. In this top section, you're going to have some of your large terrain tiles. These include your Labyrinth tiles, all of these zigzag-shaped ones. And then these longer-shaped terrain tiles will also be all grouped together, followed by these large 3x3 tiles in the upper right section as well. Underneath all of the terrain tiles, you can see you have all of your different map tiles. They're also going to be sorted by color here. That's the different cycle that you'll be pulling them from. So we are not going to be really messing with this left side as it has our cycle 2 and 3 tiles. But on this right side here, it's going to have all of your brown tiles that are going to be used during that cycle 1. So you'll put those back into their appropriate order here, organize them by their specific number, and pull them out when you do explore and sail to new areas on the board. Continuing on, in this bottom right section, you'll have a variety of technology cards, including some awkwardly shaped tarot-sized ones, and your Argo ability technology cards. Now, the reason that I do this is these are generally not going to be things that you reference, as they do just remind you of some of the core game rules, but then you'll also have a specific Argo ability limit, so that's going to store these here so you know which ones you're actually using at the time. So you'll put the tokens on those for your different encounters. And then underneath all of that technology are some of these reference cards. I'll leave a link in the description below. They have great collections of the keywords, so you're not having to reference into the rulebook as much. You've got all your info here alphabetically. Super nice. Once again, leave a link in the description below. Underneath those cards, we have more of our terrain tiles here. These are the L-shaped terrain pieces. And the last bits of terrain are actually in this middle column here. These are going to be your much longer terrain pieces. So these straight line long terrain pieces. Tucked behind those long terrain pieces, you have some silica gel packets for freshness. And then lastly, you're going to have the cards for the cycles you're not using. Now these are these small mini American cards, and they are marked with either secret decks, so that way you know not to mess with them, or they are going to be whatever cycle you are not currently on. Like these are some of the exploration cards for cycle 3. So you're not on cycle cycle 3, so you're not going to need these at all until you get into that cycle book. But when you are ready to start this cycle, you can sub these out for your exploration deck that we'll see in our active area over here on the left. And one last thing before we move on from this right side here, we have taken out that central divider here. Normally there would be these large columns in here keeping the cards nice and straight, but seeing as we are storing those terrain tiles in the middle here and have those larger pieces that overlap the two areas, it makes it so that everything is still nice and snug, but just go ahead and remove it so you can store those pieces on top, because you are not going to be using the majority of these tiles or any of these cards while you're playing that first cycle. And when you do move to a new cycle, you just shift things around. Let's move on to this next column here, and this is going to store all of your different primordial cards. For example, you have your Hecaton here. All of their different AI cards are stored. Their body part cards based on their tiers. So these are all stored for the different primordials, and you'll organize these based on the cycles. We have the Hecaton first, the Labyrintharos, the Hermesian Pursuer, Alpha Temenos, Cyclonus, Chimera Mestations, the Burden, the Nishan, Hypertime Oracle, Icarian Harpy, and the Sun Descendant. When it comes to labeling all of the different creatures, primordials, and card types, we just simply use a system of index cards, Sharpie, and scissors. You trim down the index cards so they fit in the wells, and then label them on the top here with a Sharpie. It's a great system, and you can cater it to however in-depth you want to actually organize all of these different card decks. And finishing off this column here, we have more of our small mini American cards. You'll have the remainder of your Cycle 2 and Cycle 3 cards that you're not using, but then you'll also have a lot of the currently not used Cycle 1 cards. These are going to be Argonauts that you currently don't have any characters playing as. You also have some different exploration cards that you're going to shuffle in to that Cycle 1 deck once the timeline calls for it. And then, of course, your clue cards that will unlock new special things in your campaign and your adventures. So as mentioned before, you do have those exploration cards as well that you're going to cycle into, as well as some technology rewards. So that's all here in this small pile in that middle column here. And that brings us to our left column here, and this is what I'm going to refer to as your active or current column. Now, first off, we have some of our 2x2 terrain pieces here just to keep everything nice and snug, and they're nice and organized there so you can clearly get the terrain that you need. After those terrain tiles, you're going to have all of your Triskelion dials here for your different Argonauts. Go ahead and pass those to the players that show their specific rage, fate, and danger. You'll then have all of your small mini American decks that you'll need access to, whatever cards that you've unlocked, as well as your current exploration deck. You'll have your different Obol draws, the different types of trauma, from grave to major, and then minor traumas that you'll be using during your fights. So those will all get shuffled and then placed in their appropriate areas around the game board. After that, you'll have your current map tiles that you've unlocked. This is wherever your boat has seen. I won't get into any spoilers, I won't show any of those, but this is where you have been exploring and all of the map tiles that have been revealed for those. Next up, you have all of your different Argonauts and all of their associated items and abilities. For example, this Argonaut here has all of these items on their associated item, as well as these Mnemos cards, and then that Argonaut is separated by those large cards here. So it's all for one character. There's your next character, there's the third character, and then there's your fourth character. Now, following that, you're going to have your Kratos as well as your Moiros cards. So those are going to be shuffled up and then put on their respective areas outside the game board. And that brings us to the remainder of our standard size cards, starting off with our projects decks. These are all of the different technologies that you can develop if you have those requirements on the bottom there. So every time that you unlock new technologies you can potentially develop, you'll put them into this project decks. The rest of the technologies will be stored in this next tab here. You've got all of those technologies, and these are specifically for Cycle 1 as mentioned here. Next up, we have your Mnemos cards. These are cards that are going to be sorted in alphabetical order, so that way when you do unlock them, you can go ahead and grab them from here. Our next tab is all of our faded Mnemos cards, and you're just going to shuffle those up as they will get randomly pulled from. These next three tabs are going to hold your terrain cards as well as your wound cards, and then lastly your trait cards. So go ahead and sort them by their specific types: terrain, wound, and trait. And our last sets of cards here are your off-cycle technologies. These are going to be the technology from 2 and 3 that you're just not going to be used based on the cycle you're in, and then you can shuffle these out whenever you move on to that second or third cycle. And then lastly, you'll have some more of your secret decks. I don't need to show off any of those cards though. And that's everything inside of our BCW box. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, we'll return all of our cards behind their appropriate tabs like so. We'll then put in our Moiros, our Kratos cards, and then all of our current Argonauts and their associated Titans cards on the front of this tab here. We'll then place all of our currently discovered tiles and then our current small decks of mini American cards in that left side. We'll place all of our Triskelions to the right of those small mini American cards. and finish up that column with our 2x2 terrain. We'll return any terrain pieces to this right side with our long ones in the middle column here, and then our L-shaped terrain pieces on the bottom right. We'll put our reference cards as well as our tarot-sized technology cards and any Argo ability cards on top of those L-shaped terrain tiles. Next, we'll place our 3x3 terrain tiles in here, followed by our 1x4 as well as our zigzag tiles. And we'll finish up this bottom right corner with this small hardware storage organizer. And that's everything inside of our BCW box. And that is organizing Aeon Trespass Odyssey. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. And for links to everything that I talked about in this video, please take a look in the description. How do you organize your copy of Aeon Trespass Odyssey? What do you think of the game so far? What do you think of the boss battling, the story, the grand adventure, and what have been the most interesting primordials that you've been able to face? We'd love to hear what you think. I hope that you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.